Hello, my name is Courtney James, and I am here today with Patrick Cruickshank, the CEO and Director of 9 Mile Metals, and Gary Loman, the VP of Exploration. Hello, you guys. Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you again, Courtney.
Good morning.
Good morning. So today you put out some news about the drill program that's ongoing at the Wedge, and I just thought we could take a little bit of time to chat about it and provide some information on what was in that release.
Sure.
So,
I'll start. I just would like to let's summarize. The Wedge drill program is on an orphaned mine, the Wedge mine from the 60s. So the orphan mine strategy is to bring new technology and apply it to an existing deposit, and with the objective of proving it's bigger, deeper, more economic now, et cetera, et cetera. So what we're doing is we're using our roadmap that we put again in the press release so we can try to educate people on our plan. And the Wedge is target 1. The extension that we've identified with new technology is target 2, which is a northwest extension. And on that, we have EarthEX's reprocessing of all the geophysical data, and also with the late time conductive response axes, which are those red strong lines. Yeah. So what we're drilling is new areas, new holes to show that this footprint is bigger. And that's our objective. Now, to expand on that, the plan is not just target 1, 2, but also 3, 4, which is the Tri-Bag and the West Wedge, on trend as multiple clusters. We know we have VMS out there on target 3 and 4, and the new identified target 6. That is that cluster that we want to call the Wedge. And unfortunately, with the weather and Mother Nature and so on, and water being frozen, we can't get to 6, 3, or 4. And that's why we're starting on 1 and 2. Yeah. So that's the overall footprint. And I just wanted to make sure and reiterate to people that's our strategy, and we do have a roadmap that we're going to continue to as weather permits as we get closer in the spring.
All right, thank you for that overview, Patrick. And let's talk a little bit about this drill hole. Why did we start with this one, and did we see what we kind of wanted as we were going down? I know you mentioned in the release that it was very encouraging with the 3 zones of VMS that you came across. So maybe you can speak a little bit to that.
Yes, this was collared, I guess, on the south side of the Wedge, the old Wedge mine, along adjacent to that like strong conductor that Patrick mentioned. Mm-hmm. And it cut the sort of a classic section through the footwall sediments into some VMS and then into hanging wall volcanics. And it's confirmed what's been known about the mine. And everybody's got to remember there is no data, there's no core. Mm-hmm. Up to just the recent acquisition. It's almost a mystery of what's underground there. And this whole, I guess, sort of confirmed what many of the academic papers have mentioned, and mineralogy was spectacular, as the XRF showed. And we're also seeing, besides that package of like solid VMS, there is mineralization on the flanks of it and deeper down the hole, and you can see visible copper. It's not just pyrite as in the main part of the systems in Bathurst.
Okay, well, it's great to see that this is kind of going as you were hoping to see. And I think, Patrick, I also appreciate you touching on the point that we're expanding on an orphan mine, but this was 60 years ago that we're looking at. So the amount, and we've talked about this a little bit before too, but the processing and the extraction and the actual critical minerals that are available on site are much more valuable today than they were 60 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, economically, the mine would be in a whole different feasibility today if the ore prices were similar. Like now, copper, it's a very rich copper deposit, high zinc, and so on. So I think that's why orphan mines are getting a relook all over the world. I will remind people that this stopped because of the head frame collapse. Okay, and like Gary mentioned, we have no data. The government has no data. Back in that day, whoever was operating didn't have to share their data and give the government, which seems odd, give the government any of their underground maps and so on. So
Plans, yeah,
it's really a mystery, and we're a little blind that way. But we do know where the lens is, and we are drilling newer holes to step out. And because the head frame collapsed, I'll remind people that the lower levels were never mined. Just think about it. They go down by levels, and then it collapsed. So they stopped and they didn't mine anything. So they don't know the depth truly, and so on. So that's part of what our objectives are on this particular deposit. And the question is still, as Gary mentions, a lot of times is there's kind of like two bursts, eh, Gary? There's a very high copper centric, call it a lens, it's probably the wrong term, but there's a copper component, and then there's a lead zinc component, because you're getting, on our previous assays, and as you visited, Courtney, you're getting up to 40% lead zinc and like barely any copper, and then you're getting 29% copper and like 0 lead zinc. So there is there's a differentiation there for sure. And we'll test this at depth. And Gary, why don't you comment on the sequence? These are shallower holes, especially hole number 1, because it's a hill, it's on a hillside. We couldn't get up there with the ice and everything for this hole, so we drilled it at the base and went in through the side.
Right.
It wasn't our first hole choice, but we did it, and we went through the footwall, the mineralization, and then out the hanging wall. So we know we've gone through that sequence, and that's how we know it to stop. So we stopped at 164.5, and now we're actually have the rig up on top of the hill on our priority target, still on that red conductor line. So we're excited for hole 2 as well.
and I've just,
That way we can actually go deeper.
The rig is like, we are up there, and it's did take a while to get it on top of the hill, but it's nice and stable, and the roads have been expanded up there. So we're going to do a couple more holes up there and then expand a little to the northwest. I was out this morning, and as I mentioned, it was minus 26 and a little chilly up there, but we're gonna, so trying to spot holes, even my GPS froze up and batteries died, but I'll be out again tomorrow, because I've just located some extra data here that'll help us spot a couple more holes, and I'm working with a colleague to go through some data so we can better target. And what I'm looking at are coincident or proximal to where EarthEX is targeting with their late time conductor.
Which is encouraging to see 2 different data sets that are meeting up at one point. Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Gary. Thank you for the update on how the conditions are going. I'm sorry to hear that it is so cold up there for you. It looks like you have like 7 layers on at the moment.
It's cold in the warehouse too. I still got to thaw out a bit.
You and the core both. Okay, well, great, you guys. I appreciate the update. Is there anything else that you want to say before closing?
I'll just talk a little bit on the logistics. So we XRF the upper zone in this hole and not the lower zone, because these holes are shallower. So we XRF the first zone to give people and ourselves a preview of the grades. And then we didn't XRF the whole 3 zones, down 60 meters or whatever. It's visible. Gary can see it with his logging and measuring and so on. But we wanted to get them to the lab as soon as possible. And also, because that can take too long to XRF the whole thing. And when it's banded or stringers or whatever, it's a little, we'd rather just get them to the labs. There's a preview because we're already on hole 2, right? So it's, we're trying to come back with more just-in-time information and not get bogged down in the backlog of doing all the holes that way. But we were very happy with what we saw in the deeper 2 zones, and we got them to the labs, get them out, because now we're already on hole 2. So that's a little bit to let people know going forward, kind of what we'll be, how we'll be releasing information.
Okay. Appreciated that. Yeah, and I think in the release, as we can see too, you have all the samples already cut, good to go. So it looks like Gary's been working hard and you have a good team working around you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, these holes are shallower, right? It was only
Yeah.
164 meters. So like going back and it's not the Landtech track mount rig where you just drive it onto your spot and off you go. And in 3 hours, you have a new drill hole started. This is the winter container and a dozer, and it takes time, like 6-7 hours to get it
Set up.
spotted and on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like a whole shift. And then, yeah, so it's a longer process logistically. So that's part of what also contributed to our XRF strategy this time. But we're very excited about the hole and the results we're waiting for.
Yeah.
Yes, everything sounds incredibly encouraging. So I really appreciate this update from both of you, and I look forward to seeing some more news coming out shortly.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Courtney.
you.